Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be looking at one of my favourite parts of character development, and that is internal conflict. Internal and external conflict in writing is so fun because it just pushes the story and your characters forward in so many different ways. Now, external conflict is what happens around your character, what is going on to make the story happen. Internal conflict is why it matters to your character and why they are now having to really push themselves to figure out what to do and why it might be a good thing or a bad thing to them and to those around them. Everyone goes through some kind of internal conflict, and it is rarely fun. Unless you're the reader, and then it's really fun. Internal conflict just creates this barrier that your character then needs to go over, forming an arc, if you will, a character arc to show how much they've developed. So this is where they are at the start of the story.
There's a whole lot of internal conflict that they need to get over, and sometimes this is where they think they need to be, but because this is where the straight line is, but the internal conflict leads them to where they're going to be over here, and they kind of need to go this way.
This is a terrible analogy, and I talk a lot with my hands, and I'm very, very sorry. But the point still stands, and internal conflict does create a character arc that your character needs to go over in order to develop. Sometimes going against their internal conflict is the easiest route because they think, if I just don't have to deal with this, then I can just go over here and pretend it's not happening and it'll be okay. But why is that a bad thing for your character? Why are they considering, maybe I do need to do the hard thing and maybe go somewhere I don't want to go just so I can avoid more hassle in the future, or and that's what you want. You want your characters to have the moment. They need the moment before they can have the aha moment. What am I on about? Basically, they might need a hope, but they have to go through hell to get it, and that is why they don't have a hope in hell. Yeah, that was quite quick for me. It kind of goes back to another video I did covering the differences between plot-driven stories and character-driven stories. The plot-driven stories means that things are happening around the character and the character is just kind of going along for the ride. They don't really do anything to push the story this way or that way. They're just reacting to things happening around them and not really doing much else. Character-driven stories, on the other hand, is when the character decides that things need to change, and that is what pushes the story along. And to be honest, the character-driven ones are more immersive because you really get a feel for your characters, and this all boils down to what their internal conflict is. Your character at the beginning has a very strong idea of what they want. Sometimes they just want peace, sometimes they want adventure, sometimes they just want to make it home in time for tea. Just something as simple as that. That in their head is what they think is going to make them happy. You need to prove them wrong in order to create that conflict. And once they're kind of proven wrong, what is stopping them from going and getting this new thing that will definitely make them happy? Most of the time, fear, anger, confusion. They are lost. They don't know how. And that is where more conflict comes from. And we love conflict. I love conflict. I love reading conflict. In real life, I'm terrified of conflict. And yet I'm a very argumentative person, which is why I'm on YouTube. This went into a tangent. What was I talking about? Let's take a look at some examples just to see if I can make myself sound more clear. The first example is Victor Frankenstein from Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. From a very young age, he is fascinated with the idea of death and how permanent it all seems. And in his mind, his goal, his thing that will make him happy, his life's work is if he can figure out how to blur the lines between life and death, reanimating a corpse, because by that logic, he will never have to suffer again. He will never have to lose anyone again, and neither will anybody else, because he's done it. He is going to do this amazing thing to bring people back to life, to reanimate the corpse. That is what he thinks is going to bring him happiness, by having this amazing achievement that will stop people from suffering. That's what he thinks. However, On top of the whole, I would argue that there are a few moral internal conflicts to that while he's doing it, but then he's pretty gung-ho. He's not a nice character. He pretty much goes for it. However, things change when he finally achieves it, when he actually gets what he wanted, and he sees this monster that he's created and then realizes this does not bring him happiness, this is sick and twisted and wrong, and everything that he has thought up to this point is suddenly flipped on his head, and now he has to figure out what he needs to do. It's the internal conflict of, this is what I wanted, but I've created something horrible. What has my entire life been up to this point? What do I want now? I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do in this moment, and now there is a creature looking at me. It is this big revelation of whatever he wanted and whatever he thought was the clear and narrow path has now become tangled, and he has moral obligations to deal with this thing that he's created, but the fear drives him to run away instead. And from that moment on, the internal conflict doesn't stop. There are moral dilemmas of whether he owns up, whether he keeps hiding, whether he keeps running. Does he tell the people he cares about? But if he tells people about this, then he's going to get in trouble, and that's not good. But then other people are getting in trouble on his behalf, and he's hiding in the shadows. Does he stand up and save people, or does he keep being a coward? And then there's thing that might still be out there, he doesn't know. Does he go and do the normal thing, and does he do the right thing and go and find it and deal with it, and who knows? He doesn't know. It is so much internal conflict that just keeps bubbling and building and building, and because he never deals with it, that is why the story keeps escalating. There is a lot to unpack with that character alone, but that's just a very basic example. There's so much more to Frankenstein than that, and that's a whole other video in itself, never mind. Another example is Kinsey Locke from Lock and Key, and I'm going to be referring to the Netflix version because, in all honesty, I have not read the comics or the graphic novels, but I really want to. They've been on my list, so this is just what I'm referring to because it's still a level of character development and it's still an internal conflict that I'd like to discuss. So Kinsey is the middle of the Locke children, and she has been through a lot up to this point. They move into this new house, which is a family home, but there's weird stuff going on there. Please read the books or watch the series because it's really good. But the main thing that drives her is fear. She is very recluse, she is very isolated, she just doesn't know how to deal with people, and for a very good reason. She was hiding while her father was being killed. She was hiding with her little brother, trying to shield him, but she saw everything, and from that day she sees herself as a coward. She sees herself as only being driven by fear. Every time she wants to stand out and do something new, it's the internal conflict of, oh well, you didn't do anything for your dad, so why should you do anything now? It's best just to keep quiet in the shadows. And when they find a key, I think there are so many magical keys in this house that do different magical things. It is a fantastic concept and I love it. And she finds this one key that allows you to go inside your own head. And she physically removes her own fear. That in itself is a fantastic concept and blew my mind when I first saw it happening. She is under this mindset of, what will make me happy if I'm not scared anymore? Why are you scared? Because you were a coward in the one time where you really shouldn't have been, and now your life is ruined. That is what she thinks. She thinks that if she doesn't have fear anymore, she will be free. So when she has the opportunity to remove her own fear, it obviously backfires because suddenly she's got no inhibition, she's got no care, she just does what she wants in the moment, becomes full-on chaotic neutral, and just doesn't care anymore. Not about her own safety, not about how things might be interpreted by her actions, she just goes for it, and that in itself creates more and more problems to a point where she's losing relationships with her family, she's losing a support system. At first it seems good because of how people see her in school now, but then that quickly backfires as well, and she realizes that maybe a little bit of fear to pick and choose your actions is a good thing because it helps you see clearly. She has gotten what she initially wanted and then had to learn through so much internal conflict and twists and turns in the story of why it wasn't what she wanted at all. It's so good! I'm even going to throw in one of my own characters that I've been writing because I love this baby boy. After the big event that kickstarts the story and has kind of left him traumatized and a little bit of a recluse and, very introverted, he has now decided that he wants nothing to do with whatever happened in the past. The past is in the past. He has been taken in by a new family. He is living his life there. It is not a great situation, but in his mind, it is so much better to be quiet and submissive and just go along with everyone else's plans, everyone else's ideas, and stick to this new family. He doesn't want anything to do with it all. In his mind, having the most peaceful life possible is what will bring him happiness. However, when the story picks up again and the characters start reuniting after this big event and pulling him back in, oh, well, we need your help with this, we need you to do this, you were here that night too, so we kind of need you here. Yep, he denies it, he tries to avoid it as much as he can, but he starts seeing how this is the support system that he hasn't had in years, that yeah, it's still a traumatic event that brought them back together, but these people understand him in a way that his new family wouldn't. And it's that internal conflict of, if I go back into this life, that takes away the peace and quiet that I want. But the peace and quiet that I want, I feel so lonely. But is loneliness better than being in danger? But is being in danger and being around people that understand me better than just being in autopilot throughout my life? And he has to decide, does he want to go back to this group and deal with some very dangerous and grim shit, or does he just want to live the peaceful life and hope that's enough for him? You see where the conflict comes from. Internal conflict boils down to, what does your character want? Why do they think it makes them happy? And how can you prove them wrong? And once you've proven them wrong, why do they change? How do they change? As humans, we don't do well with change. We like our routines, we like to do something familiar, and whenever we do push ourselves out of our comfort zone and try to do something new, it is because we are fully aware that we can retreat back to our own little safety bubble at any given time, because change takes time. You have to adapt to change. You have to take steps to understand what this new routine is and why it's a good thing. You can't just jump into a brand new routine and expect to adjust like that, because the human mind doesn't work that way, so it shouldn't work that way with your characters. There needs to be a reason for them changing. There has to be a rebellion against changing at first, because that's just how people are. The conflict is endless because the human mind is so complex and constantly changing to adapt to situations that are constantly changing, and 9 times out of 10 we're not happy about it at first. We complain a lot. They have their hope, you put them through hell, and then give them no hope in hell to get that hope, and have to go through a different hell to find the real hope that they were hoping for the whole hoping time. It just creates a much more believable character. You can tell when effort is put into characters because of the way they think and the way they try to take matters into their own hands. If you do have a character that is the more, oh, I'll just go with the flow kind of thing, why do they go with the flow? Why do they not want any conflict? What happened to them, or what are they scared is going to happen to them if they don't blend into the shadows as much as they want to? Push them out of the shadows, push them out of their comfort zone, push them out of it right now. Why can't I talk today? Jesus. All in all, internal conflict is one of the best tools that you can ever use for character development because it makes them feel real, it makes them feel relatable, and it really helps to push the story forward rather than just having events happening around the characters and the characters just being like, okay, guess this is happening now, because that's boring. I'm gonna leave it here before I ramble on even more than I already have, but I really love this topic. It's so fun. Just reading conflict is fun, experiencing conflict is hell. But I hope this video helped you guys in some way. If you have any advice for me, then please let me know. I'd love to hear it. And I hope you're doing well. I hope you're staying safe. And I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye, my scribblers.